I've got Dr. V in studio talking about Marriage Bootcamp Family Edition on WeTV. It's on October, right? October 11th. Hey, girlfriend, how are you?
Hi, what's going on?
Welcome to my show. I'm so excited about the season.
I mean, thanks for having me on again. You're the best.
Of course. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love everything about therapy, mixing celebrities with
You
it.
do. And you're super insightful. So it's always fun to come here and have great conversations with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And then I get a little salacious, but hey, it's part of the show.
I mean, fuck, why not?
Why not? Why the fuck not is what I say. The best of both worlds, if you ask me.
Exactly.
Why do people and celebrities do the things they do? And when it comes down to it, they have the same problems as everyone else. They might not look exactly the same, but when you peel that onion, those core issues, very similar, correct?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we all love and want to be loved. I mean, we're all human. And so it really doesn't matter whether you're a celebrity or not. I think one of the issues that magnifies their problems is that they are in the spotlight. So they're kind of under a microscope, which doesn't make things any easier. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah.
And I know that, narcissists have a hard time going into therapy. Like if there's a narcissist married to a codependent, which they usually are, go hand in hand, the codependent usually finds himself in therapy, and getting the narcissist in is kind of tough. So most people would think celebrities are narcissists. So how does that work in a situation like this? It's got to be extra hard.
Well, what makes you say that most celebrities are narcissists? I think that's an interesting thing to say, and you're probably right, but I want to just unpack that. I'm curious.
I would love to unpack it.
Okay, great.
And I don't mean like all of them are, because I know plenty that are not. But I've noticed that especially the older celebrities that have been around in the game long enough.
Yeah.
What winds up happening is, and this is kind of more an environmental one throughout their career, they're constantly asked questions about themselves all the time in interviews after interview after interview. And then it comes to the point where they no longer ask anyone else how they're doing or what's going on in their life, because it's like a subconscious, unknowing self-absorption of themselves, because they're constantly being inundated with what's going on in their lives, that they don't exchange the conversation very well. So a lot of, people I know will be like, oh my God, he's such a narcissist, so consumed. Yeah. So whether that happened early on in childhood or whether it's an environmental kind of a thing that happened with fame, there could be, you see some of them on Twitter. And again, not all of them.
Well, I mean, you unpack that really well. I mean, at the end of the day, what you're saying is that there's such a self-absorption that they forget about the people around them, because you're constantly being forced to focus on yourself. So all of your thoughts are directed inward as opposed to outward. So I just want to say that, there's something called, and I know so many people like this, so there's something called a nice narcissist. Where do you know that term? Are you familiar with that term?
I'm so excited for you to tell me about this.
So when we think about narcissists, we often think about lack of empathy. They have no empathy. They have no compassion. It's beyond really a self-absorption. They just have no empathy. So you'll be talking about a problem and you'll be looking for empathy, and they just don't know how to give it. While my mother is not a narcissist, everything becomes about her. Have you ever had one of those conversations with people?
Yes.
Where you're like talking about you and then it becomes about them?
Totally.
I'm always fascinated with that personality characteristic. So, but then there's the nice narcissist, the person who just believes that they're a little bit more powerful than they are. So it comes out in ways like, maybe even like a paranoia about their own behavior. Like, oh my God, did I hurt your feelings? I just want to make sure that you're okay. I just want to make sure. And they won't accept, yeah, I'm fine. It's totally fine. Are you sure? And they think that they're just more powerful than they are. And, forget about celebrities. But I find a lot of successful people are the nice narcissist. They're the narcissist who just believes that they're a little bit more powerful than they really are. Does this apply to on TV doctors? Maybe. I'm just going to say, but it definitely applies. I see it in the medical field a lot. That God complex that a lot of
Right.
surgeons have, a lot of doctors have.
Like, I have the power to make you feel a certain way, and I'm just going to make sure that, like, you're fine because I'm the one that's able to do this to you, kind of a thing.
Well, think about it this way. If you're from an abused family, if you were an abused child, I was born in 1972, and my mother was the first teen mom OG. I mean, she really was. And she beat the shit out of us. And that's the way teen mom rolled in 1972, and some still do. So what ends up happening to abused children? You believe you're responsible for the abuse.
Right.
You believe that you are that powerful, that you have made this person inflict violence on you. So a lot of abused children end up either being the abuser or being the abusee. So they're either the narcissist with no empathy, or they're the nice narcissist. Like, what do I need to do for you? How can I help you? So they believe that they're more powerful than they are. Am I making sense? It's early.
You are.
I need a cup of coffee.
No, you're totally making sense. I find it completely fascinating because I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God, now I'm going through, of course, myself and everyone I know. I'm like,
Yeah.
there is a fine line with that codependency too, because codependents I know also constantly, are you okay? They're more like on eggshells.
Well, I don't like the word codependency. I think we throw it around a lot, and I don't like it because in order to have love, you have to be codependent. In order to love someone else, in order to be loved, every great couple, every great relationship, every great friendship, there is a level of codependency. But once, obviously, it peaks out of what would be healthy, then it's problematic. But you need to be codependent. You need that in order to have a healthy relationship.
You're right. I feel like there does need to be a new term for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like maybe love.
Right. And maybe the negative portion would be like a lack of self-love. You know, because I think a lot of people that don't feel love within themselves will either beat themselves up or look for it externally.
And words matter. And so by the way, sort of like this love toward oneself, you know, you can't, it's biologically and scientifically impossible to love yourself the way you'd love someone else. So we do need a new definition for that too, because people are like, well, I just wish I could love myself. And they compare that to how they're loving other people. Well, you can't love someone. You can't love yourself in the same way you'd love that other person. That kind of love is co-created. So it's like we need to have a new definition of all of these different words.
We do.
I'm counting on you, girl. I'm counting on you.
You're the doctor, Dr. V. Marriage Bootcamp. We're going to start talking about Family Edition. I'm so excited about this season. I love this show so much. I mean, it's going to be one of the most fascinating to watch. You've got Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman alone. I mean, such an interesting person to dive into the psyche of. How did that?
I mean, he thinks that too. So.
Tell me how interesting was the dynamic between Corey and like his wife?
Well, the dynamic of the whole entire house was probably one of the oddest I've ever been in, which is interesting because I've done that family, I think maybe 3 or 4 times, the family boot camp. But that dynamic between his brother, Corey Feldman, and the wife is just something to see. It's just really interesting. And you really get you know, we're redefining family and what family means in society. And I think something about this show helps people see the different dynamics between families. But also you get to see how people have become who they are. And I love that. Where else in television do you get to see that? Or where else ever? So like you're Jenny McCarthy. People know you as Jenny McCarthy. You have a whole history, a whole lifetime's worth of of actions and events and feelings that made you who you are, and you continue to grow, right? Like you continue to grow. And so no one really gets to see that. No one really gets to see, how did Jenny become who she is? Like where did this all start? And so with Family Bootcamp, you really get to see this sense of, okay, this is why these people are the way they are, or why they're acting the way they're acting, whether it's healthy or whether it's unhealthy. And within that is a magic. It's just a magic.
Right. I was going to say, answering that question, why, is like the most powerful. It's like the pot of gold on the other side of the rainbow, the why.
Yeah.
Figuring that out. And are they able to come out of this? Are you able to heal? Because I know you only have a limited amount of time, and sometimes it can take a long time.
Yes. You know what's fascinating about this show and why I love it is that you are immersed in the process on a cellular level. You don't have time. If you're a participant, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to think about what you're going to say next, because the drills that we put the family through or the couple through, it's really about your knee-jerk reactions, your instincts. So you're working on a whole nother level than what you would be in perhaps day-to-day conversation with people, day-to-day therapy. You're working on a cellular level. So you really get to see how these dynamics take place. It's kind of like an out-of-body experience where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that in that moment. And because of that spontaneity that is brought into the show and is brought into the families and the couples, you really can't escape who you are and the dynamic that is set up, which is why the show is super special. Because many, and I always get that in the beginning, the families and the couples, they always love to come in on the first day and be like, well, we're doing a television show. And I'm like, well, let me tell you something.
You're going to work.
Yeah, well, that's true. We are doing that. But there can be multiple truths. You can learn something. You can get something from this process, and you could be doing a television show. So those multiple truths end up being true over and over and over again. People consistently contact me about how the show has helped them, whether maybe it didn't help the couple, maybe it didn't help the family, but it helped them personally.
That's why I love the show. I mean, that's why I think so many people can relate to certain specific things going, oh my God, my mother does that to me.
Yeah.
Do you have situations, and I'm sure there have been, where like a family member, mom, dad, whoever, sister, where you say, sometimes the end result isn't keeping a family unit. Sometimes you have to have boundaries and separate.
Yes. And you bring up such an amazing point. So whether it's the couples or whether it's the family, obviously, we're always rooting for people to come together and cooperate and leave the house as a unit. We're always rooting for that. But for me, that isn't my main goal. The main goal is, are you making the right choices for you now? Is this the person you should be with now? Is your mother and father too toxic for you that maybe you need to take a break? Maybe this relationship, maybe this marriage doesn't work for you. Are the choices you are making with the people in your life and the people you're surrounding your life with, should they be there? And that's what's so incredible about the show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not in it to keep you guys together. I don't give a shit if you stay together. I care that you're making choices that feel good for you.
And I think that's what's so important, because we've done plenty of shows where people have called in and had the question of like, how do I stay connected with my in-law who's very toxic? And it's like, but they're family. Mm-hmm. No, there's boundaries. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Still be in the family, but have boundaries. Mm-hmm. So that, again, that's why this show, I think, ultimately is amazing. I'm going to plug it again. Marriage Bootcamp Family Edition, October 11th, you guys, on WeTV. You also have Aaron Carter on the show, correct?
Yep.
And Jane, his mom manager.
Yeah.
And then do they have Nick come on?
No.
Okay, so it's just talking about their issues.
Yeah.
And then who else do we have? We have Basketball Wives Laura Govan.
Yeah. So we have Laura Govan. And then we have Alexis Bellino, housewife, and her mom.
And does everyone pretty much, I know we're going to have to watch the show, do they make progress? Is there any, like, there's one couple you guys are going to watch that just couldn't get there?
Everybody progresses no matter what. And I will pull you by your hair if I have to help you in some way. And I do believe that every person progresses. Every family progresses to some extent. Now, whether it's where people think they should be after 10 days, that's up to other people. But I'm always impressed with what we're able to do in such a short amount of time.
Right. And you got to imagine the takeaway they have. You planted enough seeds in their heads to when they go home going, wait a minute, I never thought about it that way.
You are so right. And I'll tell you, so many people contact me and they'll tell me, I was pissed off at you when you said that. But now you're right. I realize how true that is. So people have aha moments in their own time.
That's right.
You can't force someone to see something. You can't. But you can crack the door into them having their own aha experience.
Especially when we're certain people, myself included, sometimes your first line of defense is defense.
Mm-hmm.
You don't allow any space to hear anyone or
Right.
accept anything. So you're like, no, you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's once that anger, I call it a murder death body in my body. I'm like, murder anger ball. I'm like, go. Once that's calmed down, I'm like, oh, I can try that head on. And you know what? It kind of feels right.
Right.
And then implementing it.
Right.
How has been like in the years that you've done it, I don't want to say the worst. Let's use a different word. The hardest nut to crack. The hardest nut to crack out of all of them.
That's a really great question. And I would have to say, while it wasn't I think some of the hardest houses are when you have one or more people really attached to a narrative that they've told themselves over and over and over again. And so you have to weigh, do I break down this person's narrative? Or do I just allow them to keep telling themselves what they like are they healthy enough for me to be like, "Ooh, that's bullshit. You might want to rethink that." Like, do they have the ego strength for that?
Right.
And you would be surprised how a lot of celebrities who are in the limelight, in the spotlight, particularly as young children, their ego strength can be at times very fragile because you're getting so much validation from outside of you.
Right.
So you never really, at times, I mean, I'm not saying everyone, but there are times when you're never able to develop a sense of yourself, a full sense of self.
Right.
These are my thoughts. These are my ideas. This is what I wanted. But instead, it's kind of like, it's all of this validation that people are getting from the outside.
But that's interesting what you say of like, you have to make a choice in those instances of going, do I allow that person to keep their story, their belief system that they've been running for their whole lives?
And isn't working for them, but isn't working, or can we break that down? So I have to make that choice. And that's always sort of a in-the-moment process for me. So for me, it's pretty exciting, too, because it's sort of this cellular experience of like an intuition. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And you're so good at it. Like sometimes I see when they get pissed off at you and they'll say something mean or whatever, you handle it so well.
I love you for that because you have no idea what's going on in my head.
Please share with the artist what is going on in your head, because you can't tell other than you are calm, cool.
I'll tell you, Jenny. I learned this very, very early on, and I've been doing this for a long time, 20 plus years, and I learned this very early. In order to help people, you have to find something about them that you love and that you like. if otherwise you can't help them. And that is the truth. So when someone is raging at me, I imagine them, and this is going to sound so pathetic, I can't even believe it's going to come out of my mouth, but I imagine them as a child.
Oh, I love that.
Like, I imagine them as a kid.
Yeah.
And for me, it just makes me overwhelmed with more empathy, more love. Like, I am going to pour love down your throat until it overflows, because you obviously need more of it. You need more love, not less. So most people, when someone's raging at them, their instinct is to give them less love, is to yell back, is to, like you said, the first line of defense is defense. In this situation, and maybe in most of my own life, my first instinct is to give you more love. Pour more love.
I love that. And, that's something to take away for everyone that's listening, too, because in your relationships with your friends, your family, or everyone, if you do picture them as a child, and usually they are, you go back to that child trauma, that core child, the 8-year-old that's arguing with you, that's hurt. I know we're running out of time, but that's a really good takeaway, and I love that that's where you go. So when I watch the TV, I'm going to be like, oh my God, you're giving him more love right now. Dr. B, it's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
Amazing
I
at
love
what you
you.
do. I really love you too.
Thank
You
you.
do a great job. Marriage Bootcamp, Family Edition on WeTV, October 11th. Make sure you guys tune in. Thank you so much. Come back again.
Thank you.
Jenny McCarthy Show. Oh!